Thanks for tuning in. This is Randy over at Perfect Video Conferencing, and I'm in a home office setting. I'm actually recording this on a Tuesday, so perhaps I'll call this Tech Tuesday. You may be listening to it on a Wednesday or a Thursday or weekend, but the point of this is we like to talk about technology in a way that helps you make choices for your conference rooms. If you have any questions about this, you can reach us at sales@perfectvc.com or support@perfectvc.com. That'll open a ticket and help us track your request. I want to show a couple of web pages just because it's useful to see the settings and setup that I have. Currently what I've got on screen is an image of the desktop that I'm using, and I'm currently on camera with the embedded camera and the Sennheiser headset that I'm wearing. I'm going to toggle between camera sources and microphone sources, but the real point of this recording today is to go ahead and skip that for now, is to really go ahead and annotate on this camera and talk about the Logitech Brio 4K camera. So for the purposes of this recording, we have been asked by a number of our partners and friends and quite frankly Logitech to say, hey, you've done an Aver, a Hudley, and a number of other 4K cameras. What about the Brio? And it's important to point out that this form factor travels quite nicely. And then the other thing about the 4K camera is that it's cheaper than most of the alternatives that we have discussed. This gets used in much larger conference rooms that it's scoped for, and that is really one of the outcomes of this call, is to talk about the camera in its best configuration and to disclose some of the challenges we've seen as this camera is being used. All right, so with that in mind, next thing I wanted to point out a little bit about who we are. We do guarantee our work, and we'll help you assess the total cost of ownership on a deployment. The camera in particular, a relatively inexpensive $200 unit. With this camera, you get some important technology, and we like the right light technology. And as I toggle between the deployments at my desktop, you'll see, quite frankly, some of the difference. One of the cameras that I am currently using is the C920, also the B930. You'll see in market has a similar look and feel. The one on my desk is actually the 930, but oftentimes people are it's slightly different software for different video platforms and optimized for Teams and Skype for Business on the 930, but certainly life-size Zoom and all the other platforms support these USB cameras. So again, it's the 4K camera that we're talking about. It's available on our store, and we'd be glad to hook you up with one of them, or two of them, or hundreds. So with that in mind, let me exit out of the screen share and just do a quick toggle on the cameras. So here again is the embedded camera. I'm using this headset, and important to point that out because we do like to track best practices. And one of the things that happens with these better cameras is that oftentimes on the cheap, customers are looking to put these cameras on top of or below a TV, and because it has a microphone and the TV has a speaker, they do kind of a low-end video conferencing experience, and that experience isn't always the best. And so we're looking for a perfect video conferencing room, not, kind of works video conferencing room experience. I think the Brio in the right room can actually give you that perfect video experience. So here we go with switch on the audio. I've been using the Sennheiser headset, the 660 if you need the model number. I like the binaural because then it gets rid of the background distractions. Here is the C930 microphone. So microphone test to get a slightly wider range of background noise and sound, so you don't have that boom here picking up the sound, so you don't get as much of the quality sound in. And I'm going to go over to the Brio microphone. So microphone number 3. Here's the Logitech Brio microphone. I'm just going to share content again so you can see how I've made that change. I've gone into audio settings, and then I'm here on the Logitech Brio. Here's the system sound. Test 1, 2. That's the MacBook Pro's audio. Here's the 930. Test 1, 2. Test 1, 2. And then obviously the best of these is the Sennheiser headset, closer to my yappy mouth and better ability to clear out the background. The next thing I'm going to do is also share the camera settings. And again, I'll just toggle between those. Here's the built-in Facetime camera. One of the things I notice about this setting is that you end up by getting quite a bit of washout and blur in the back, but that's what it's designed for. And then the ratio that it has for me is kind of a decent. I'm looking at my laptop now. I have my laptop raised, so I'm getting better eye-to-eye contact. Oftentimes the problem with laptop displays is that the camera's pointing up your nose. Not so great of a perfect video conferencing experience. So then the next up, and the kind of the workhorse that we see a lot of traveling people, is the 920/930. Immediately you see a much wider range. I've got some front-facing lighting, so I get washed out. I'm a little shiny. When I mentioned the thing we like about the Brio is that it has that kind of right light sensing technology. You'll notice that the lamp in the back, particularly, and some of the lighting gets kind of washed out and bleached. When I move over from that to the Brio, you'll see the real value. I can actually need to adjust the camera to give you a similar look and feel, but much crisper, sharper lines on the background lighting. You can actually see the pole in here, and then a field of view. And the great advantage of having a 4K camera is that with capturing that data, you can then with a software that does digital pan tilting zoom, you can use the data that's collected by the 4K camera, not only get a wider room, but also ability for the user to zoom in, zoom out without having to have the mechanized and expense of a legit pan tilt zoom camera. So where and when does the Brio deploy properly? This room, standard 15 by 25 or so living room, home office, at my desk, it works fine. Would that this were not as soft surfaces, some fabric on the wall helps mitigate the ambient sound. When you step away from the microphone, it's not as good of an experience as you already experienced as I toggled through. So huddle rooms, perfectly fine. We typically don't or wouldn't use the microphone on any of these cameras as the only microphone, but in a 3 to 4 person small huddle room, phone boothy kind of space with decent acoustic treatments and not a tin box sound, the Brio microphone would be awesome, and you don't need the extra expense of an extra microphone. You could quite frankly use a bring your own PC, the camera, and then use outbound sound on the TV and have a perfectly fine video conferencing space. We tend to like to have supported sound with better bass than most TVs carry, and then we tend to like have a microphone that is purposely designed to cancel out background noise and deal with the multiple people in the room. But the Brio would work, as does the Hudley Cam, as does the Aver, as does the Panacast, and the Brio is $200, so it's a much cheaper cost to get into many more conference rooms. So I hope this is helpful. We've got diagrams, floor plans, schematics for how to deploy all these. Again, I'm going to go back to what I feel is the best practice for one of these rooms. So here I am, Logitech Brio, check my audio. Going to go to this, yep, still on the Sennheiser. I'm going to move over to the Brio microphone. Just the final test on this, so I'm now on Brio microphone wrapping up. Thank you, Logitech, for making such great products. Thank you, customers, for asking, but don't use these in large auditoriums. You're not going to get the experience that's 4K can bring you. Use this camera where and when the room fits right. If it's not helpful, let me know. Add some comments, add some editorials. If it is helpful, buy some from us. We appreciate your time.